Other news at the SABC Netball South Africa is currently briefing the media on developments in the World Cup underway in Cape Town. Let's take you live there and listen in.
Thank you, Claire. And I just must say, we have had, and the event has had, terrific support from the South African government and Western Cape and the city of Cape Town and the organising committee and Netball South Africa. There's been a real partnership here to enable a very special event to be promoted and enjoyed by so many. I think that's all from us in terms of an upfront statement. So over to you, Bruce.
Right, we're going to have question and answer. If you could put up your hands, and then we're going to move around. We'll start on this side, then we'll move across, and we'll do it nice and slow.
Thank you, Bruce. My name is Rumbo. I'm from Zimbabwe. So I think the first question would actually be in terms of support. You spoke about support for some countries. In terms of funding and support, is there anything that is being worked out by World Netball to try and ensure that all the other African nations can generally catch up with the rest? Because we tend to meet teams once in 4 years. For Zimbabwe, they'll only play Australia once in 4 years, New Zealand once in 4 years. So is there anything there that will try and help so that they can also come up to that same level?
That's a great question. What I would say is the world of netball is rich in people resource, but it's poor in financial resource. So there are opportunities to deploy individuals to support member nations. But Claire, I'd like to ask you to answer in a little bit more detail.
Thanks very much for the question. So we do have a World Netball Global Development Programme. We have an individual that works with all of our regions. We have had in Africa a regional development manager called Joan Smith, who was deployed firstly 15 years ago, and she works with all of our regions to identify what help they need and how we can best support that, as we say, with our limited funding. We do redeploy any income that comes from the World Cup back out to our members we've had a long-standing program called Net Effect, and that we deploy through our regions. So our regions then decide how to use that money, and we will be starting a new fund which is working towards the legacy of the next World Cup, which will be for strategic projects. So we are doing what we can with the little money that we do have, but obviously the commercial success of this event means that we can do more than we have done before. And Zimbabwe is a great netball country. We were with the minister last night from Zimbabwe, and she knows we're there to support and looking at all the elements, not just the basic coaching and officiating, but also the governance of the sport, making sure that we're helping our members to develop their own commercial skills so they can bring in revenue themselves. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Fidos from ESPN. I'd just like to ask you about the ticket pricing. We heard from the local organising committee that first that it was set by World Netball and then that it was set in conjunction with World Netball. So I just want to clarify whether either of those is true and how the ticket pricing was decided.
I'm going to pass to Claire to answer that one because we have a very clear response to that.
Yeah, back to me. Thank you. Yeah, it's quite a nuanced process, as you might imagine. So what we do is with the local organising committee is we ask them to put forward their ticketing strategy. We help them think about what are they benchmarking against. So clearly in this case they were benchmarking against other sporting events, not only in South Africa but specifically in Cape Town, and other high-profile world events. So there's always a balance to be struck on these matters. We looked at the size of the venue, the capacity, and as you can see, the ticketing prices for the semis and finals was set just right, and we have good coverage. Those sessions will be full, which is amazing. For the other sessions, we probably could have been a bit more sophisticated about the marketing. And you'll notice that the LOC were quite quick to act and have been giving the partners tickets to give out to the local community, because what we want are full matches. We want as many people as possible to enjoy the matches. So I think there is a role for World Netball to help member nations when they're hosting to raise the value of the game. And that's something that you in the media are helping us do by profiling our sport. It's the broadcast eyes, making it something that people don't want to miss. And we have confidence that working with the media, with our members, that we can fill our stadia all the time. And we're on that journey there, so please help us to do that. Thank you.
Madam President, you've spoken about 3 scenarios: play, grow, and inspire. Based on those scenarios, how's the appetite like in various netball regions? Are we likely to see a scenario where the number of teams that partake in the World Cup would increase from 16 to a bigger number to allow other nations an opportunity to play?
So 2 parts of that question, I think. I'm delighted that our strategic focus that we set at World Netball in 2019 has been adopted by many of our member nations. Now you can just imagine if all our member nations get behind that grow, play and inspire agenda, how powerful that will be in terms of us achieving our collective objectives. In terms of the World Cup, we have a working group at the moment looking at the World Cup qualification process, and we will always review after a World Cup what the future World Cup structure might look like. We know there's an ambition for many more nations to compete, but at the moment we have a very competitive qualification process in each of our regions, and so we'll be reviewing that as we go through the next few months.
Okay, let's start with Boya and then straight over.
Good day, President. My question just brings it closer to the events that have been happening around, especially I think starting around Thursday, with the taxi strike that has been happening here in Cape Town. I just wanted to get a sense how much has that had an impact in terms of the operations. And here, I mean, we've been speaking to some of the volunteers that have also struggled to get this side, but also the initiative of trying to get them into sort of hotels so that they can be closer, and getting that sense of the skeleton stuff that was working yesterday, just in an operational sense, how much did it have an impact? And also with the threats moving forward tomorrow, that definitely there will be safety around the event with those little threats that are coming in, that there might just be disturbance, especially with the final.
I'd actually say we're very conscious of that, but the responsibility clearly lies with the organising committee to actually manage the operations on the ground. That's delegated to the organising committee. Claire, I don't know whether you want to say anything more.
Yes, I'm very happy to comment on how the operational aspects. I mean, we've not really talked about the sort of background, all the individuals in the background. So as well as the 300 amazing volunteers that are here, we have, it seems like half of Cape Town working here, which is amazing, in different roles. And some of those are in security. I mean, there are probably more individuals working this event than we've ever had at a World Cup. So we've also had the opportunity, well, I've had the opportunity to meet with the security side of things and to see how well we're being looked after. I feel very safe in Cape Town. I always have. And I can just see how much has been wrapped around this event by the police, by the city, to make sure that all of our participants and all of our fans that come to the event feel really safe. So I know they are absolutely managing the situation as a result of the lack of transport. I'm sorry, coming from the UK right now, lack of trains and transport feels quite normal. I would just say they're doing a great job in that respect. I have every confidence in them.
Just Becky, sorry. regarding the ticket sales, just wondered if you've been happy with the organisation of that so far, because Australians who paid premium prices to come to that game just before some of them were moved around 3 times before they actually found a seat today. So the other problem that there has been obviously is the prices, which you alluded to. There were many empty seats there for a semi-final between New Zealand and England, which is an amazing game. So just would be interested to hear your thoughts on all of that.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. So one of the challenges of this venue is because it's not fixed seating. You'll notice that the organising committee have had to bring on all the seating. So there were challenges around getting that right with the ticketing, and World Netball was probably had to intervene a little bit more than we would have done in the past. But then this is probably the most challenging venue that's been used for the World Cup. And as we grow, I mean, over the years there have been empty stadia when you have one team playing at the end of the day. It can be empty at the beginning because it's all sold out at the end. So the models are changing and developing every time. But I can only apologise if any of the fans have had a less than perfect experience. The purpose of moving people was to make sure that everybody that has purchased a ticket is able to see the game and have that full experience. So we're learning. Thank you for your question. I think that answered everything. Thanks.
Hi. At the World Congress, did you talk about the increasing competition that netball faces from other sports like rugby, football and cricket, the trend is they are starting to cross-subsidise the female codes? How are we going to compete with that?
That's a really interesting question. But I said earlier that netball was created by women, for women and girls when there were no opportunities. So to be perfectly honest, I'm encouraging the netball community to celebrate the growth of women's sport and the support that women's sport is getting from those major governing bodies now. I don't see it personally as a threat. I think there's room for those opportunities for young women and girls across all of those sports. We are still growing as a governing body. We're growing within nations and we're growing in the number of nations. So there are no indications at this point in time that it is a threat. And I'm smiling because many of us that play netball, when we were young, we would have loved to have had a choice. And now young women and girls have got a terrific choice, and I'm confident that a significant number will continue to choose netball because of our values as a sport and the culture that they will enjoy when they join a netball club at a very young age or even later in life.
Okay. Flonin Timkulu from ENCA. I'm not sure if my question goes to the president or the CEO, but just in terms of the format of the competition, I know the Proteas coach has spoken out about it numerous times. And just also with the ticketing, was it possible to work out a different format just to make sure that people know who they play, well, fans know who's being played when, and I don't know, that would maybe help in terms of the ticketing as well.
Would you like to say something?
Yes, sorry, me again. The format of the competition, we regularly review the format. This format was used in Liverpool, and again, going back to knowing what's happening, if anybody could tell me what's happening in the football, that'd be quite handy. So the whole point is to make sure that everybody realises that every game is worth seeing, and you don't just need to follow your team. So we know that it's absolutely possible to sell to a local audience other teams because they're seeing the best netball in the world. If you're a netball fan, you can have your home team, but you can also support another team. So really, so the answer about the format is we always review. As we've said already, we have a working group looking right now at the qualification to work out how we actually qualify and the numbers of teams. But we will always look at it. I don't know whether Stacey wants to comment at all from the athlete's perspective.
Yeah, I would. I think I was always told coming through the netball pathway that feedback is a gift, and I feel like World Netball have shown a great ability across the years to take on feedback and to make changes. There is, I don't think, ever going to be a time when the world is all perfect and even, but what I think World Netball has shown is a great capacity to want to continue to change, evolve and to push the sport forward. I think the inclusion of an athlete director on the board is a really significant step forward in that space. Whilst the feedback from the athletes to myself isn't formal yet, I think they're mindful that they know that their voices will be heard and that the best format for the competition looks different to every nation, which is certainly a part of the complexity of my role, making sure that I take on the feedback and present it back to the board in a way that the sport continues to move forward for every nation and not just the top developing and nations that have yet to join the sport at a World Netball Cup.
Can I just follow up on that, please? Do you think that the format had an impact on ticket sales? Would you say or not?
I don't think it has had an impact. There will always be uncertainty as to the scheduling for the later events because it all depends on qualification. It's just a matter of it's going to happen in every World Cup. But as you can hear from Stacey, we have a real advocate now for the athletes that can actually contribute to the review that will, as Claire said, will always take place after every World Cup.
Hello, sorry, right through the cameras. Just with the doubt over the next Commonwealth Games, even the 2030 event, the future of the Commonwealth Games and netball no longer being a core sport, has there been thought given to holding the World Cup more often than every 4 years?
Well, we are still huge supporters of the Commonwealth Games. Netball is a net contributor to it, in terms of the support that we get, the ticket sales, the broadcast. And it's an event that is really valued by our players and our nations. So we will be supportive of with the Commonwealth Games Federation to help them if we can secure future hosts. And yes, it's a bit of a risk for us because we're not guaranteed as being included in every World Commonwealth Games. It depends on the choice of the nation, but we have our antennae out to be able to influence those potential hosts so that we can make the strong case for the continued inclusion of netball. Was there a second part to your question?
Well, those are live visuals coming through as the Netball World Cup briefing gets underway ahead of the final phase in which we're going to see the semi-finals taking place. Thus far, England versus New Zealand and Australia will be taking on Jamaica. South Africa will be facing off for the 5th and 6th position against Uganda as well on Sunday. So we'll continue to monitor developments on that front.